So the YouTube, I just realized that it was muted. Bad habits. Let's see. All right. All right, so people on YouTube, welcome to Drawing and Talking, Artclstudios. Today we're talking about warriors. Hello, Martha. So we kind of forget that these warriors do exist and did exist. And there's a film, a Haitian film called Papa Machete that pretty much talks about how they train with the machete like a sword, and those are real warriors. And it's a fighting style. It's a sort of like the games we like, the fighting games, that they have all these different weapons, and we like the Asiatic warriors. But we have the warriors in our own backyards. We have our warriors in our houses. We just don't call them that because they've been tamed. So there's a lot of tamed warriors out here. But I know in different situations, in different times, they react and you see the truthness in them. But they have been tamed. All right, so we got that one. And I'm just gonna go a little forward here. So it goes from here. Let's see. I'm just gonna move this just. And after I moved to a house with a backyard, I remember that. Like, we always had a machete in the house to clean the leaves and to cut the grass. We didn't have lawnmowers. We had machetes. El machete. Pásame el machete. Those are phrases that we used to hear often back home. Let me get the machete. Whether it was for work or whether it is to defend yourself, we used to hear those things back home. All right, so boom. Alright, so we got one frame in. Let's see. That's one frame, so animation happens really slow. Hassle 5, welcome Mr. Garfield, welcome to the live. So today, Nigerian youth, Dev, welcome to the live. We're talking about warriors today. That the warriors that we have today made up in our mind, pretty much warriors that are sold to us. But we have those warriors back home and we don't even recognize them anymore because their faces have been changed, their life. All right. But yeah, so I'm animating warriors today. And that is the guy with the machetes. All right, so going forward a little bit. And this is a weird angle. I don't usually draw or animate in these crazy angles, but just trying something new, just challenging myself to do these complicated challenges. Let's see, so I'm just gonna play the video a little bit. Ooh, it's going super fast. And it's just kind of to remind myself too, where to grab inspiration from. You know, all last week we spoke about creativity, inspiration, how to, you know, where to create from, you know. And there's resources all around us. There's images and videos all around us. We just got to know how to find them. Hey, Melody, welcome to the live.
No matter how big or small.
So we're animating tonight. We're animating the warriors of, well, sort of like forgotten warriors. You know, they're in our neighborhoods. They're in our houses. But we don't call them warriors anymore, is because society has changed, and therefore they do too. They had to adapt to change, or the system will get rid of them, right? Because no longer these warriors are not needed. They're not considered highly as there once were. Only the best fighters would survive things. And they were the ones that needed to defend the towns, the families, the kingdoms. But now we have militaries and police, so therefore that's taken away from the regular citizens, you know. Those things became jobs. No longer is that like a high rank for people to be a warrior. But I just wanted to remind everyone that those warriors were and are still here. We call them delinquents and criminals now, but those are the ones that defended the towns. Back home, my dad was a neighborhood, some sort of a neighborhood watch, and he said that he always needed to be made friends with the guys that were dangerous, because they were the ones that would protect us in times of danger. So those guys were highly, you know, respected in the town, because they had a weapon, or they knew how to fight, and they knew how to defend themselves and their family. Just that sometimes those same guys that defended everyone also took things away from people. So it's a double-edged sword. But nonetheless, there were the warriors. Naruto 1285, Brandon Knowles, welcome to the live. We're talking warriors and animating. So we got something here, not super clear, but it's getting there. Alright, so we got 2 frames in, and then later we can separate them. Miriam Cosley, welcome to the live. Your work is amazing. Thank you, thank you. So today, again, we're talking warriors, and if you guys can think of somebody who's a warrior in your life, you know, just leave it in the comments, or a warrior of your country that you remember. And because of the times that everything has changed, now warriors don't have weapons anymore. They use technology, or they use their voice to fight wars. They use their art. They use their writing, because the wars have shifted. They use their looks at certain points to fight wars now. But mostly they use their skills, and that's what I want to focus on. Um, the skills needed then were the ones needed to defend a country, a town, a family. But the dangers have gotten less and less, so therefore we use less violence. But those skills, we shouldn't forget about those skills, because of those skills were the reason why people live longer too. They live longer years. They were always active. And the same guy that cut the grass, that cut the trees, that fed the countries were the same people that defended the towns, because they had the weapons. The farmers, the vendors, the people that were considered the low class were the ones that also fought. And that's one of my main things is this character here in the background, El Campesino. It's one of the guys that sort of reminded me of my culture, and I'm thankful to have that character be somewhat a symbol of a symbol of hope, in my opinion, And I always talk about the campesinos as the ones that fed the world, that without them, people will go hungry. All right, so we got. All right, so I'm finally finding pivot points now to animate from. So we can do that one there. So as he moves forward, he now plants a foot. This foot in the back will stay here. And he leans in. I was gonna do somebody dancing because that was also something that I enjoy, and that's one of the shirts that are in my store. One of the series that I did, Warriors of My Country, was a dancer, a female dancer actually at this matter, and her superpower was to bring joy to the people. And we don't think as dancing as a superpower, but. And shout out to my boy Brian, that runs the Instagram Culture is My Weapon, something like that, or Culture is Weapon. But yeah, we should look into that, how culture is used, and the warriors of today are now the rappers, because they're the ones telling stories, they're the ones defending neighborhoods, the poets, the writers. But we don't consider them as the carriers of culture at certain points. But we do remember eras because of these guys, or movies. The people that make movies are also warriors, because they're sending a narrative, and they're marking eras, marking years. All right, so we got that one in. Now let's see what happened. He stops and bring his hand up. And now these animation are really rough. As the first step to animation is the rough pencil. The Art of Eldon. Welcome, Eldon, to the live. Alright, so as he goes up, he arches his back a bit. head comes up. And now, there are certain things that we don't think about, like all the stories that are made up for the warriors. Like, I don't know if anyone has seen the movie Hercules, one of the last ones, and they speak about how all these stories of Hercules were made up. Nothing to be mad about when it comes to that, because, again, we can't confirm or deny a lot of the history that's been told to us. At least some history we can't deny. Sometimes we just gotta accept it and add our own. You know, don't take all those stories as end all be all of things. Let's see. But it turns out that they were exaggerating a lot of the Hercules stories. In the movie, they were kind of revealing how they did that. And we could be those heroes too, you know. We can create stories and narrate them in whatever way we want. Make a fictional character and make yourself the superhero, or make yourself the villain, whichever one you prefer, you know. But write a story, talk about your life, you know. Talk about whatever you want. There's nobody to tell you you can't do that. You know, become your own warrior, become that person which you want to see in the world. Just, you know, there's a lot of things that hold us back sometimes. There's a lot of fears, judgment. You know, we judge ourselves a lot in those matters. But fuck it, you know, who cares? If I, and it's not a bad thing to judge yourself. You know, you can judge yourself in terms of, you can always improve, but don't let your judgment stop you from making things, from creating whatever you want. You know? Alright, we got that. We got a swing. We got our swing. Oh, and funny thing, right? So there's a thing about a theory that I made up about Dominican Republic, that a lot of the people that were cane cutters, people that worked the fields, also became the best baseball players because they wielded the machete and they were always swinging. And there's a coincidence. I don't know if it's a coincidence, but Japanese and Dominicans are sort of like the best baseball players out there. Not because I'm Dominican, but the major leagues are full of Dominicans. But Japanese had swords and they wielded the sword. They practiced the swords, and so did Dominicans. It's just that the tool changed, the way to make money changed, and now instead of fighting for their lives or cutting crops, they hit a baseball. You know? And that's just funny stories that I tell myself all the time to, you know, kind of make history more interesting. And who knows if there's some truth to that. I haven't done any studies, or I don't hold any statistics to say that those things are super accurate, but I believe it, and there's a good story there to be told about the samurai baseball player. All right. If someone wants to run with that story, be my guest. Trey Baby, welcome to the live. Jose 314254, bienvenido al en vivo. Estoy hablando de no el coronavirus, sino de los guerreros. De los guerreros de nuestros países que antes tenían machete y ahora tienen bate y juegan pelota, que se han transformado de granjeros a peloteros, porque como cambia el tiempo, así cambian las profesiones. So just as time changes, so do professions. And, you know, people do get used to new ways of living. People do get used to new skills. And los macheteros are the warriors, or were the warriors at one point. All right. All right, so it's really blurry. And then, so if you see in animation, they do have a lot of blur effects to show motion, and here we can see why, you know. In reality, this guy in the animation here doesn't seem to have a hand. It's so blurry and broken up. Kodo Graham, welcome to the live. Welcome, welcome. Talking warriors. Speaking about the warriors of the land. Where they go? Are they still here? Do they exist? What happened to them? You know, have we forgotten them? How do we commemorate those warriors, you know? Welcome, welcome. How do we remember who those warriors are? Now, they don't wield swords, they don't wield knives. They wield the mighty word. The mighty pen. You know? And those are the people now that defend the land with the pens, the paper, the brushes, the cameras. But because I don't see, there we go. We have some motion going. There we go. Let me see what happens when I just scrub here. Swung, swung. Let me take away the onion skin. Let's just look at the motion here. So we're getting something. All right. So, talking about the countryman. Talking about the countryman and how they really were the ones holding it down and how they defended us to be here. And it's my way to say thank you by showing that their spirit are still here, you know. Because these skills were just translated to something else. But we think they disappeared. But we clearly see that all the time, these guys in other countries. This video here is from the Dominican Republic. Two guys fighting with machetes. Those skills are still there. Those were swords, you know. But the swords were used to cut grass and things like that. And if you see, we only remember like mostly the warriors in Japanese culture, Chinese culture. But I want us to also, I'm introducing, if we haven't seen much, introducing some of the Caribbean warriors and the Caribbean fighters and the martial arts that were wielded in the Caribbean, you know. And what martial arts means, it's not just fancy techniques, not flashy moves, but, you know, a way to defend yourself. And even though probably I haven't done a lot of research on it, but just because they didn't have an academy, they didn't have black belts, and they didn't have people in line, which they probably did, but I'm just not 100% sure. But because they didn't have academies for kids growing up to wield machetes and stuff, doesn't mean that they didn't have their martial arts. And I'm gonna just show something real quick here. I'm not gonna play the video. I'm just gonna Google it so that you guys can look at this. It's a short. All right, no worries. King of Shots, welcome to the live. So we're talking Warriors, and I want to showcase this short film about a Haitian machete master. You know, it's called the master of a secret machete martial arts, Papa Machete. And I'm not gonna play the trailer or anything, but I just want you guys to know that there's something that exists of this man here. I think he passed away, but he has the techniques of machete fighting, and there's forms, there's formation, there's an art to it. So when you guys, when you have a chance, it's a short documentary on machete fighting from Haiti, which was the first nation to liberate themselves, the first nation of slaves to free themselves all around the world. So you guys can take a look at how deep history goes and things that we don't know and things that we don't shed light to enough. So just putting something out there for us to look into. And a lot of history behind that. Anyways, let's get back to the animation. So again, the film is called Papa Machete. Machete. And we're back. So he teaches his sons, and by the way, unfortunately he passed away, but he taught his sons and grandkids how to fight with machete. And it's practice over there. All right, so let's see. I'm following the video and I'm stopping it as I go, sort of studying the frames, where they go, where they stop. And I'm using pivot points to guide the animation so it doesn't fly. Let me get some water here. All right, so right now this is what I have. Let's see, how do I restart? All right, let's play. So again, so I'm animating this. I've only done about 7 frames in almost half an hour. You know, the talking and gathering the reference and getting all set up does take a little bit of time. And also the program just lagging a bit when it comes to the drawing, because it's streaming. Alright, so he's moving back. I'm just gonna speed up and just get some of the core gestures. Alright. So, talking warriors. What happened to the warrior spirit? Have they all died? Did they all went away with time? You know, and also one interesting thing that so capoeira is also a way that slaves in Angola from Angola in Brazil practice their martial arts. So that's also another martial arts form that is very much alive now, and they do have academies and they train people in it. And it's martial arts that I practice. Actually just took a class on Sunday with Quebrada on Zoom, and it was a lot of fun. Just Google capoeira and you'll see what I'm talking about. So we don't see a lot of references when it comes to melanated warriors, but there is a lot of stories that we don't know because we haven't done our digging. But they'll come to show really soon as more people get involved, as more researchers want to tell their stories and want to showcase some of these lost files of history. Alright, so we got and I'm doing frame by frame here, sort of going little bit by little bit. Sometimes I do key poses and then I just fill it in between. But I'm following the video and I just want to just go step by step. Because it's a little easier that way too. I don't have to plan or think much. I'm just following my eyes and just moving the footage forward and back. Alright, so now he steps back here. And man, it's already been an hour almost. Jesus, time flies. Alright, so we get the guy going in. Now he steps back. So now his pivot changed from the back foot to the front foot. Now he can that changed the brush. Now he takes a step back with this foot. Now his whole body shifts. And that's one thing that you want to look into as you're animating. You know, you want to look at what foot is all the weight being pushed on. So that way you don't get confused and your animation feels more believable. And one thing that because I'm doing frame by frame, I do lose track of the size of the drawing sometimes. But that's something that you can always fix at the end. The things that I am looking at is pretty much the box shapes that I'm seeing. And it's funny because I don't practice a lot of animation. I should practice it more often because I get impatient. But because I'm doing it on a camera and I'm doing it live, it forces me to stay on it. So this helps me also just get these things done. Because I'm like, I know I could do it, but... And I think sometimes that just because I think that I could do something, I don't have to do it. So it like, there's a weird thing that happens in my mind that I kind of see things very vividly. So because I see it in my mind, sometimes I think people also see it, but it doesn't work like that. People see only when they, well, not people, but some people can only see when something that's presented to them. But my mind works very interesting that you can tell me a story and I can see it in my mind. And that's why sometimes I don't push my drawings to the limits that it can go. This was something that I was working on earlier. Just to, so these are some sketches of characters that I was working on. And here's a little animation of somebody just flying or jumping. Pretty simple. And again, for animation, all you gotta remember is to look at the simple shapes that are given to you. Triangles, squares, and circles. And with that, you can make anything else. Alright, so we got that frame in. Boom, boom, boom. He steps back. And we got that. Move back right here. Boom. So again, remember that this, all the time here, when he's stepping in, this foot is in the front, but the pivot is in the back. As he steps back, here, the pivot is in the front, and the back moves. Alright, let's see now. Thank you again for those who are coming in, and for those who are coming in later to watch the video. These animations are time consuming. You know, animation is something that it's a beautiful art form, but it's also a very time consuming art form. There we go. It takes a long time to get a project going when it in terms of animation, and I might show at the end a short animation that I've made in the past, just to give some. About 5 years ago, I made something, and I haven't done an animation like a full short. I haven't done it in a while, so I'm just gonna showcase it at the end if I remember. Alright, so the guy bends a little bit, his head stays forward. Now his right arm comes up. And if you see the way the animators work, there's a lot of roughing to do in the beginning. It's a lot of rough animation that gets made, and sometimes these things don't even have to make sense. As long as they just make a mark, and a lot of times also things are just left not filled in. Alright, so finally we get.
These are unprecedented times, but together.
Alright, so again, the pivot is in the back.
Citizens Bank is committed to helping our communities.
So animators have to be really good at anatomy too, you know, like not all anatomy needs to be correct, but you need to know about weight shifting and you know, joints pretty much is one of the most important things. You need to know where the joints of the characters are, or the body. And then you can start pretty much animating. Stick figure animation has been something that's become very popular, or was at one point very popular, and sort of died down now because people are getting better. Alright, so you see the motion in the ocean. Now we see the motion here just changing a little bit. And if you guys look into also stop frame and stop frame, stop motion animation, it's very similar to what I'm doing now. It's just like taking picture by picture. Picture by picture animation. Let me erase this foot. And so we're almost making an hour. And I wanted to animate the other guy too in response. he might strike now. And the interesting thing about these machete fights that happen in the hood is that for the most part, always somebody comes in and intervenes in the fight. So people usually don't get really hurt, at least some of the things that I've seen. Hey Telly, welcome to the live. Welcome. Mr. Emilio, welcome to the live. Thank you for joining. I've been giving you shout outs, by the way, the whole last week. Talking about inspiration and all that. And today I'm talking about warriors and some macheteros from the Dominican Republic. And I'm just saying that these people usually don't get hurt because people in the neighborhood always intervene in these fights. And if they do, probably they just get a cut and whatnot, but nothing too crazy. And they're usually friends, those people these guys that are fighting. And it's just misunderstandings, and then everything goes back to normal. I was just saying that they really get really injured. They might get a cut or whatnot, but nothing too crazy. They just wield their machete like crazy. Because they got skills like that. Alright, so he's the guy on the left now is more defending. But you guys can't see much because my head is in the way. Alright, let me speed it up a bit. He extend his hand here. And I'm just gonna play it real quick so that you guys can see how this thing is looking so far. Alright, so let's go from the beginning. There we go. So we get some motion. See how it looks without the onion skin. And I'm just going to scrub through the timeline. That's the last frame so far. So we get a strike here and then boom. And these are pencil roughs. These are the testings of my grandfather was the land warden and had a bricha, which is more refined than a machete or a colín. A bricha, let me look that up. And I was just telling people here how we don't remember how these warriors, we had them in our house. These are un colín machete and a bricha. Let me see. Bricha. Machete. Just write it like that to see if it pops up. I know a pulsón o a puñal is like more pointy. Let's. Nah, they're not updated. But so it's probably a little longer, white handle with a white handle. Bricha. Oh, those are bigger, huh? Those are the. Let's see. I'm gonna bring this thing in here because you guys can't see what I'm looking at. Bricha machete. Just type machete. But yeah, I was just saying how we don't. Is it one like this? Are these the bricha? There we go. That we don't remember how the warriors that were once warriors, considered warriors, the people that had these skills, they lived in our house. You know, our grandparents, our uncles, our neighbors, you know, all these guys that were masters at the skill of machete or wielding a knife, wielding a sword. We don't consider them as valuable. It was really impressive. So, and I'm just gonna share this other video real quick because where is that? Okay, here we go. How this guy just like moves a machete like if it's a toy. And it's, you know, these are skills that were needed once to defend your life, you know, to save yourself. But now these are dances, these are transferred into other art forms. But we got to remember who these are, who these people were. These were the people that saved lives, the people that weren't afraid to give it all up in order for others to survive. All right, let's bring back this. Hey Chris, welcome to the live. So we're talking warriors. Not warriors, but the warriors that we once knew that no longer are with us, or they changed their names into farmers. But these were the warriors. The farmers were the warriors. All right, so all right, let's bring that frame in. Now this foot in the back becomes the pivot point. And thank you to those coming in and, you know, joining me here in this session of Motion Mondays, drawing and talking with Artclstudios. We're here every day from 10:30 to 11:30. I know it's a little bit past the time, but we came a little late, so I made up for the time. And I appreciate you guys coming in and watching. Amelia, if you at any point you want to join. Oh, we got 25 seconds left on the live. I'll just come back a little bit to kind of just finish up the animation. And if you want to join and say a few words, you're welcome to. You know, Hendrik was here on Friday, and he was sharing about his dancing and all that. We got 3 seconds left, so the live will be coming back soon. Stay tuned. All right. So again, I apologize for the people on YouTube for the sound being out for the beginning of the stream. All right. Wait a minute. Cancel. Let me screenshot this as I always do. But yeah, so the audio wasn't on in the beginning, and I started talking until 14 minutes. The audio came back. So we're gonna go back once again on Instagram, and let's see if the live is still here. Yep, the screen is still there, and we're live again. We're telling your followers. And this is also a way for me to remember about references, how to find the warriors of my country. They're still there. You just gotta find them. All right, so he got his machete up now. And he's moving back a little more. Talking warriors. Let's see if Emilio wants to join in on the call real quick so he can tell us a little bit about his grandfather and a little bit about that story. Hey, Emilio, how are you?
How you doing, buddy?
Good, good. How are you?
All right, all right. Loving your lives as always.
Thank you, thank you. Let me just introduce Emilio here. Big influencer in my life, you know, sort of a father figure. Even though I do have my father in my life, but mentor. He taught me theater. He taught me discipline. Youth group in church, and you know, a big influence and a big mentor to me, and still is to this day. So thank you so much, Emilio, for everything that you've done for me.
Thank you.
I hope everyone is well in your family. And if you want to tell us a little about yourself and what you do today.
Sure, but let me just say that I only showed the door. You guys walked right through it. Remember that.
Thank you.
I just told you where that door handle was. You guys like, hey, let's see what's inside. And you did your best. So that's why I'm always proud of you guys. Everywhere you go.
Thank you so much.
I'm still doing like my laptop work. You know me.
You gotta keep doing.
So yeah. So as Chacha was saying, I'm a little bit of everything. Like all my life, I always look for things that I can do, things that I can excel at, and that's what we always try to pass forward to other people. So I've been doing a little bit of tinkering here and there. So we did what we did, computers, technology for years, right? Then we also had some passion on theater and singing in the choir. I mean, there was almost everything.
You did dancing, right? But theater was a big part of us.
Yeah, that was part of our passion. So we definitely did a great deal. We were there for years, 15 years.
15 years, wow.
15 years that we helped so many people, and you know, we only took a break. And that break turned into a longer break than necessary, and then we just moved on to other things. I mean, I moved on to have my family. That's one of the reasons why I could not continue going to the meetings all the time. I had kids now, and when you're dealing with kids, so now I'm still doing my little tinkering here and there.
Mm-hmm. But I just want to share that because of you being a big factor. So we did theater in the church, and Emilio was one of the directors of it. But because of that, I have a big. I was connected to my history pretty much. So I carry a lot of passion, you know, for knowing things about my culture and about my country, the Dominican Republic, and it makes me curious to know, you know, history of the country, and we translate it and we try to bring that to the community, which we grew up in a Dominican community. So we sort of never detach ourselves from the land. You know, we brought a poetry, which is Hay un país en el mundo, was one of my favorite poetry that you made, and I just found out who Pedro Mir is recently. You know, so that's like something
That's right. We had a special there on that.
Yeah, so I didn't know anything about him, but you guys brought it to my attention. I was like, wait, this is what we did in the church, you know, so I'm very thankful for that. And here you were mentioning,
it was well received, yeah.
You were mentioning that your grandfather had what is it called?
It's called, I think I may be misspelling it, but he called it bricha. Maybe it's blicha or bricha, which is it's like a machete, but it's more refined. It literally looked like a katana from Japan. It was really like fancy, and he had a wide ivory handle.
Is it one of these?
And, it's the first one on the top. It was just like the first one on the top. And let me tell you, the stories that he told me about it, you're right. These people were worried.
Yes, thank you.
They literally were, like, he was a land warden. So that means that he didn't own the land, but he took care of it for another landowner. So he was like, what do we call them now? Like, we say wachimane, but that's not the right accurate thing.
Yeah.
He literally ran a team of people that would guard the land and the plantations that were there. So he was like like the capataz of the place.
Wow.
And he tells me stories of people who will go in and steal by knocking down fences and grabbing the food and the stuff and ripping like the land and sometimes even setting it on fire or causing incidents and things like that. So one of his jobs was to ride around in a horse or some other means and take care of the land for these people, and they can ambush them. And he was ambushed at one point by a group of people, and he pulled out this bricha, which is it's easier to wield than a machete and sharper, or just as sharp as a katana.
Wow.
And he had a fight with one of these robbers, and he cut the arm off
Damn.
of the robber. And the weirdest thing, as you said, and I could not believe it, is that after he cut the hand off, he literally grabbed the hand, put it in some bag or something, and took the guy into not to jail, but to the emergency room first.
Wow.
Before then later on taking them to jail. So because he was more interested in having that person not die than actually having them pay for the crime. So it was always interesting, because then after that, even the person who he had a fight with, he eventually not became good friends, but it became somebody known.
Right.
He still didn't leave him to die.
And that's one of the things. That's one of the things that I like to mention, that when these things are wielded, like the machetes, the knives, these are for protection or incident, not for killer instincts, but for safety. And like you mentioned, his safety was in hand. He wanted to take care of the guy, and then he was taking care of business. But so these were respected warriors that we should honor, and that.
They were. Even until his very old age, he was well respected within my hometown. A lot of great people knew him. We highly admire him, respected him. His stories have been spread by all the family.
What was his name?
Rafael Diaz.
Rafael Diaz.
So you knew that kind of name, was also a strong name.
Diaz.
Rafael, right?
Don Rafael.
I don't know if you knew, but back in the days, around the time that there was a dictator, Rafael Leonidas Trujillo.
Right, another Rafael.
Rafael, right. So people was like, don't mess with the Rafael.
Damn.
So it was a big deal. But that's one of the things, that he was skilled at wielding that weapon. It's not like he just had it to scare people off. He knew how to use it, and he was very well versed on that. I wouldn't say that he trained on it, but he was trained on how to use that kind of weapon. He took it very seriously.
Do you know by any chance how did they train? Was there like any sort of like practices that? Was there like one person that taught the rest, or?
It's not necessarily military, but I think that they had something similar to that, because when you get that kind of job, it's because being like the warden or the top person guarding a big land like that, you had to at least be able to defend yourself. So that kind of thing came with it. I believe that he trained. He didn't explain exactly if he was in the military at one point, but he knew how to use it. He knew how to use it well, and he had us see it one time, and I even touched the blade itself.
Wow.
It was sharp. He can cut your hair literally by dropping it, and I'm not exaggerating.
Jeez.
That thing was sharp. I think I got cut just by looking at it. Seriously.
Man, I wanted to mention this film that I found. It's a short film. Let me just play this in the background. Papa Machete. And so that could be playing in the background there. And let me get this thing up again. Okay, so this is a short film, probably 11 minutes long, and I can't play it because I don't want to get a strike or anything, but just Google Papa Machete. Let me bring it up higher. And
I can look it up. I have my laptop here.
There is this. I think I can hover over this, and so I can hover over this, and it shows an older man showing the kids and and his sons and grandkids how to, the secret fighting of this mastery. You know, again, in the Caribbean, we don't remember that these people were warriors and these people had skills. Um, and we should look into some of those histories because of we're not studying our history and us not being made interested in it. It doesn't lead
Exactly.
curiosity to to get into that.
Yeah,
So
sometimes it escapes, and we pay very little attention. Like
mhm.
we have the habit of leaving that in the past.
Mhm.
As we immerse ourselves into this new culture and new mentality and everything, we leave most of that stuff behind because it's strange to even the new people. I'm sure that some of the people that have joined us and might be watching or might still be watching us right now, maybe wondering, what are they talking about? Like
Mhm.
machete fights and all that. It is strange to this land because that's not something that you see. You may see a knife fight or something, or a gun battle somewhere blazing, but machetes or not even what's the other one? Not machetes.
Bricha. Colin,
Colleen's.
Colin.
It's like Colleen. It's like what is a
What
Colleen?
is that,
And
right?
and and it's also it's the same, but I think it was a shorter machete
Mhm.
or something to that effect. But this is what people carry with them for
Right.
many years. Even now, still at this day, you still find people wielding machetes or colines, not brichas, because that's like I said, it's fancy and
Mhm.
expensive to have one of those.
Right.
But as I recall, there's still people wielding them because you still have people uh, cutting the sugar canes
Right.
with machetes. So they still carry them, and they have one that is special that's a little bit curved that helps cut the machetes better, and you can literally cut meat with it.
Right. So
It's a
these
cleaver. It's
the
like
one
yeah,
the thicker one. Yeah, I seen
yeah,
that one a lot in my town. A lot of the older
yeah.
men always had that.
It's
And the way they
oh
carried it
man,
was like you could never tell. And then they'll go like this from their back and wield this
yep,
huge ass thing. So and I just want to remind
that's
everyone
right.
we're talking about warriors. And let me put it here. I usually just go live until 12, 11:30, but we have a special guest, Emilio, here. Um, Hey, it's my pleasure to have you here, man, and speak about the real life heroes that we had in our families and how interested that
That's
we
right.
haven't seen those things animated. And to me, it'll be an honor to grab stories like that and make comic books, make books about these things because our kids, our sons and our families haven't seen these movies about our own families, and we're the creators. We're the artists. We are the voices of our towns. We're the voices of our people, and we are the ones held responsible to create these stories, to bring them to life. And
Right.
because everyone will pass away, but their story shouldn't be leaving us.
Yeah, no, they live on. The stories live on. That's one of the things that I'm passing on to my kids. It's not like I want them to be wielding machetes.
Right,
I
right.
want them to know what they were and why these people lived the way that they lived.
And it wasn't that they were savages so that they wanted to
No,
hurt people. They just were defending
no,
their property.
yeah, that's right. That's right. It was a bit, controversial back in the days. Uh, to be in that kind of environment where you have to defend other people's properties, even though there were people out there who were hungry and starving and
Hmm.
didn't have much. So it was always like difficult to be in such a position where you have to defend someone else's property
Right.
at the expense of hurting somebody else because you have to defend yourself. They also may end up killing you because you're defending other people's property.
Right,
So
right.
it was very difficult. It was very difficult at the time. It was a different time. I had people tell me unmanageable stories that um, widen your imagination and you go, no, that stuff that can't really have happened. Yeah, we've had issues even within families
Hmm.
who want the land and have killed to gain that land, poison, shot, stabbed. I mean, there have always been situations in our past that live on as we tell the stories. And that's one of the things that we should continue always doing. What you're doing up there, I really love that idea.
Thank you.
Bringing these characters to life, making more people aware, maybe bringing some more awareness to that old style of not only.
Hold on. Sorry, I mean, hold on 1 second. The volume got cut off. Give me 1 second. Let's see. Hello? Hello? You hear me? Ah, man. I'm trying to get this thing. Hold on. Let me get the... sorry about that. Let's get the Bluetooth off. Let me see if I can hear you now. Oh, man. Trying to get this thing louder, but it kind of messed up the volume. Because they can't hear you on the... Let's see. Hello?
Yep.
Okay.
How about now?
Just gonna continue it like this because trying to get the speaker to get going, but sometimes it just messed everything up. All right, so sorry. Go ahead. You can continue.
I was gonna say that I can't wait to see how that character develops and how much of a backstory you're gonna give it and how far you're gonna take it. I don't think that this has been done before. There is so much, like if you set it in a particular era, and we're not talking about like the 1800s, we're just going back maybe 50, 60 years ago, where things were a little bit more, it was still civil. People left their doors open, remember, to their homes. People left them open.
Right.
Nobody would even dare walk into your home and grab something from anywhere. And I still remember the time where people started locking their doors. I still remember, it's like, why are we locking the doors?
Right.
Like, what? Because you lived in closed-in neighborhoods. Everybody knew each other. Other neighbors took care of you as you were growing up.
Right.
They like I got punished by the neighbors down the block for like running around in sandals, or not even sometimes wearing sandals. It just happened,
Right.
We're guardians, just the same.
Yeah, no, and so I just want to reiterate a little bit of what you're saying, because some other listeners on YouTube can't hear very well. But it's pretty much that back in the days, maybe like you said, 30, 40 years ago, people were able to leave their houses.
A little bit more, like 50 or 60.
50, 60 years ago.
Right.
Their doors were open in the Dominican Republic, the Caribbean, and most Caribbean countries, and most let's say underdeveloped countries, people would always leave their doors open, and everyone would come in and out because everyone knew each other. There was a sort of community sense. Everyone knew who everyone was, and there was no worries about like the wrong things happening to people. And also that stories like the ones that I want to make and the ones that I'm building are stories that we don't hear often. And we creators, people that have talents and techniques, we have the responsibility, and it's not a burden, but it is like we got to carry the load and sort of share the stories out at the same time as we're making a living and telling holding our lives together. But also there's a need for that, there's a need for that culture to be told. Through our Dominican Republic, we're big on dancing. We're big with music, dancing, but we haven't seen this big boom in like comic books, in stories, in movies. Usually it's comedy that sells a lot, but I've been seeing lately there's a reach, there's an effort trying to be made to make more stories that are heartwarmed and telling stories about the past and combining it with the present. But so we're talking about warriors, and these are the people that protected us, our grandparents, our family, and these are the stories that I want to tell. These are the stories that I want to help bring to life. And people like Emilio here would be a great asset, to writing a story out, helping me develop some stories, and bringing these things to life. Emilio's a writer, an actor, comedian, a singer. He's, many talents. So we have the burden, Emilio.
Well, you got the hands and you get to draw, so I can tell you some stories. I'm more like a storyteller.
Yeah.
And you're right. One of the plays that we did was Madre Solo Una, and I still remember that was based on some of our experiences as not me particularly, but people in our country who went out or set out to find something new for them, to find something, a dream for their families, and
Right.
something different, something new, to aspire for more. And that was one of the stories that we told, and that's how we were able to tell it through theater, through art. And here you are now making a comic book or a story being written in paper, or even animated. You can do it animated.
Right.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you. That's how we tell stories.
Yeah, no, and the power of storytelling, it has shifted. Now people have podcasts and they talk. So sometimes now it's become easier to tell these stories. So, who knows what would happen from here on. But the world has changed. The world is changing, and we should adapt to its changes. We shouldn't be so oppressive to kind of like push it back, but sort of roll with it and take on new skills and new responsibilities, and see that now the power of storytelling has been given to us again. We've been granted a magic wand to kind of retell our stories. And I did say that I wanted to share something that I did a while ago. This is a short animation that I made about 5 years ago or 6 years ago, and it's something very rough, 30 seconds. And let me see if this thing could play. But it's the story of a little boy, a little farmer boy, practicing rescuing his donkey. You can find it on my YouTube channel, Artclstudios. It might be a little choppy here, but it's something pretty simple, but it does take a lot of work. Animation is one of those things that does develop a lot of time, needs a lot of attention, a lot of time. But speaking through podcasts and things like that, it's something that just leaves the imagination to wonder. But this is pretty much the setup. He goes running and jumps over something, hides behind a rock, kicks a paper, and rescues a donkey.
And how do you get to do it? What do you use in order to make that animation?
So that I use Flash Photoshop with Adobe Suites.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah. Oh, and now we have Cultura Comic just wrote to us. He was gonna be a guest tonight too. He's somebody that's. Disculpa la respuesta tarde. All right. So he could be tomorrow. He could be back tomorrow. So there is a movement of comic book in the Dominican Republic happening right now. And I have some contact, and hopefully he can join us tomorrow and talk about the Dominican comic culture and the present. But Emilio, what else can you tell us about it? Like your grandfather was an example of somebody that was a warrior. He was a warrior to your family. He was a warrior, somebody that provided, somebody that protected for you guys and made it possible for you to be here today. Like, we don't think about it, but if he died in his younger life and he didn't get married, you wouldn't have been born, and so on and so forth, right?
Big family too.
Right, big family.
Nine kids. He had
Wow.
9 kids. I have 8 well, one of them has passed away, but yes, lots of aunts and uncles, and that's that's how the family and the traditions and everything is passed on. Uh, that's how you do it. You usually back in the days, people have big families. From my mother's side is where my grandfather comes from my mother's side. From my father's side, we didn't have a grandfather because he was raised by my grandmother. So she was literally a fighter as well, and she was well respected just as well. She was known and respected in my hometown in San Francisco de Macorís.
That's where I'm from too.
Yeah, and most old families, they knew each other for that reason, because these old folks that were out there were always everywhere helping each other. So they knew each other by last names, So whenever you mention the last names, people were like, "Oh yeah, I know your family."
Right.
So usually that's how the families were raised. And on my grandmother's side, we were not that many. From the side of my father, but he did have quite a few other relatives that did have a lot of kids, and that was a trend back in the days, to have at least 4 or 5 kids, because that was a hearty big family.
Right.
You didn't know back in the days how many of your kids will survive even. So that was one of the things that they did. They carry on every other year. You'll see another child come, and straight away they put them to be raised. They helped each other, the kids, as they were growing older. They were helping the younger siblings
Right.
Grow, learn, go to school, learn how to do chores, how to work the land, everything.
And so, what would you say was one of the biggest lost, in a sense of like stories? Like, what do you think prevented people from learning these stories, the history of family? Because I'm sure that you have a privilege of knowing some of your grandparents, and you telling your kids and things like that. But a lot of us, we don't know, we're not inquired, we're not inculcated to find out the history of our grandparents, our great grandparents, who are they, where they came from, and all that stuff. So what do you think should be, how should we change that? What do you think it's a way to
I can tell you one factor was, and me and all my siblings had the privilege of actually spending time with them, with all 3 of my grandparents, my 2 grandmothers and my grandfather, who we grew up with. Many times we either sat with them just to have a cup of coffee. Even as kids, we back in the days, coffee was just like giving somebody juice, or like apple juice or something. Dale café al niño, that's what they used to say. And then we're like there like 100 miles an hour, like drinking coffee. Hey. So, but we loved it because we got a chance to sit next to them, hear them tell us stories. That's what they love doing. They love telling stories, and sometimes they'll ask for a favor. They ask them, for you to brush their hair, or to rub their feet, or whatever. Something as you were telling stories. So people love just sitting there, and that's one of the things that some families did it by the campfire, just like they would tell stories about who they met, who they know. A lot of great stories started by just gathering the family around. And what has been lost over time, and I noticed it as they started leaving us, ourselves and other family members, was mostly like all these other distractions, like the TV, for example. When the TV arrived in our house, first it was the radio, but the radio was not that, you just turn it off, because after 7 or 8, there was nothing on the radio, so people would just hear like maybe some mellow music and stuff, and then you would turn it off. But then the TV came, and then when the TV came, it sort of became like the center of attraction in the house. Me, every Saturday in the morning, I would be watching cartoons. So no longer I would want to go and hear stories from my grandparents. I just wanted to be glued right in front of the TV, watching the TV and looking at other people's stories from afar. You know, because they sounded more interesting. Remember when they were doing the robot, the Galáctico,
Right, He-Man, and
He-Man, right, all of those stuff. When
Salimán,
it all
¿cómo
came
es?
out,
Calimán.
Calimán, Solín,
Soli.
yeah, all of that stuff, that you're able now to see it. Yes, in the radio you will hear stories, but now you're able to see them live on television. So that took over the storytellers of our homes, which were our grandparents.
Right.
They
So
tell the best stories ever.
it took away. So the separation of the family now went from you learning about your own stories to learning someone else and someone else making you interested and taking away your attention. Hey, Anna.
Yeah.
Welcome to the live. But yeah, so that is something that I do. That thing that's very important. That we lost their attention and we bought into the lie of someone else's story being more important than our own story. And now
Right.
we're second characters in our own story. When in reality each one of us is the main character of our own story. Therefore, we push ourselves harder when we have those connections. Now, if we lack that, and like you said, the TV made us forget that we have our own stories. Now, it is our duty to go back into that. And now with technology, now using it differently. Now you're telling me your story, and now like we can learn from each other. We can hear each other's story. I can tell you my story, and now we're not only listening to our TV story, but we can make our own.
Right, and like you said, it's not that the TV itself was wrong, because it served its purpose of bringing a message and unifying people across the world. But when it's done without any control, you lose that part. And like we said, we became glued to the TV. We didn't want to go out and play anymore. We used to go out and play baseball, cantarita. What do you call that? We used
La
to play
placa.
La Placa, La Vitilla, all these
Yeah.
other like weird games that people came up with just to entertain ourselves, because there was nothing at the house to entertain us. So we will always go out and find other ways of having fun with our friends. In fact, then as soon as the TV came and you placed one in there, and if you were lucky, your TV was in color.
Right.
You just sit right in front of it, and you just waited for the next show and the next show and the next show, and it also became you would think the babysitters too, because then folks who were pretty much in their own world in a sense, our parents or other family members that were taking care of us, they figure, hey, just put them right in front of the TV. They're not gonna leave. You can go to the store and they'll find us back in front of
Right,
the TV.
right. It's like, oh, these kids are
They
zombies.
have to worry about us, right? They just left us there. This is almost just like the iPads of nowadays.
Right. So
You
not
buy
much
an
has
iPad
changed.
to a kid, Yeah.
Mm.
So, but in reality, that's what the one that I regret the most that we lost is that, like you said, is the history of what else could have been passed down. Yes, I heard a lot of great stories, but there was so much more that this older generation could have given to us, that at some point we just started lagging behind on. And I still remember days where I would go visit, say, my grandmother from my mother's side, and she will be sitting in front of her galleria, like the terrace,
Front of the house?
the front side of the house, right? And at the time, I believe that my grandfather had already passed away, and she was just lonely sitting there, and she knew, that her time was also coming, and you can sense it. You know what I mean? It's like her partner is gone, but she lives on because we are still around, and there's still so much more that she wants to give. So I had that that sense. We were still able to understand that at some point, she is gonna be gone, and she wants to leave us with something.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the best things that she could give us, which was her stories, her past, because within that past is our own selves, it's our
Right.
own history in a
Mm-hmm.
sense. And I believe that that's one of the things that I sense that she wanted to tell us. That's why I will sit down and listen and ask her, tell me a joke. And then she'll tell me a joke, and sometimes it will not be an appropriate joke. But
Grandma.
grandma, come on.
But listen,
And
but
she will
look,
laugh.
so
But
look at the situation we're in now, and how
yeah,
many of us would wish to be next to our grandparents. Like my grandfather passed away, unfortunately, and fortunately because he still lives with us. But he passed away in December, and now my grandma from my mother's side is alive with us, right? And
yeah,
we haven't seen I haven't seen her personally in a while since I moved to Delaware like in January, and I haven't seen her since January, and it's crazy. And now that we're in this situation, we are like, oh, we need to remember our grandparents, like we need to know. But now because now we're restricted also, so not only even if we wanted to at this point, right, with this situation that's going on, we're told that we're not supposed to go see the elders. We're not because they are in danger of getting the
right.
virus
They're
and
at
whatever.
risk. Yeah, they're at
Um,
risk.
but it's a unfortunate situation. But that doesn't mean we can't call them. We can still talk to
Yeah,
them, and like we're doing now. We're communicating. We're hearing each other's stories, and there's still energy here being given. It even if it's not face to face, the energy still travels. Energy travels faster than the speed of light, and if we can think about that, right? Um, so we should reach out to them, and then as I'm saying this out loud, I've been telling myself that I've been wanting to call her for the past five days or so, like 2 weeks or whatever, and I haven't called her. So this is a big reminder for me to remember that my warrior spirit still lives here. She's still with us, because we don't consider women sometimes warriors, but they carry the whole family with them. They birth the
that's right.
families, they carry the
That's
families,
right.
they feed the families, and they take care of the families. Because when that husband gets sick, they're the ones taking care of the whole family by themselves. If the
That's
wife
right.
gets
All right.
sick, the husband would put a sister to take care of a neighbor. But if the husband gets sick, the mother takes care of everybody all at once. So they are the biggest warriors, and that goes out to all the women and the mothers and our mothers, to remember that they are the warriors also that we have to value
That's right. That's right. With respect.
with respect. Yeah.
That's why. Yeah. That's why we like my grandmother from my father's side. Not only was a single mother, she was literally the father and the mother of that household, and
Wow.
she raised three kids, including my father in there. And she had a business in the market, and she ran the business from
Wow.
from her house. She would walk over every day to the big market, and she raised the kids. She made sure they went to school, they studied, they prepared. She made
Wow.
sure that they all had. My father, like at 14, already had his own business. He already
Wow.
was a carpenter, and he was running his own shop. So yeah, she
Wow.
did her best, and she did great. She did abundantly great. And not only that,
Mm.
she kept on giving for all of us. She, with her help, is one of the reasons why we made it here, all
Mm.
the way here. Um,
And
so it
here,
is
where is
it is
that here?
something to be thankful here in the United States.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So it was one of those amazing things that we have always been thankful for.
Mm.
That through the effort and work and perseverance of one person, many of us can enjoy benefits that we wouldn't be privy to um, in in another lifetime. So
Right. Right. No, and it's crazy that sometimes we don't think about how one person literally carried everybody to a place, you know.
Yeah.
And it's good for us to take time sometimes and reflect. And now that we do have the time, it's good for us to reflect, on the benefits and the struggles that our parents have gone through in order for us to get to where we are. Our grandparents, our fathers, our forefathers, and don't take that for granted. Don't think that our walk to this point has been in vain. Whatever mission you have, whatever goals you have in the back of your head, remember that your parents struggled for you to get there. And like you said, your father had a business at 14. Now at 14 years old, who thinks what
14 years
child?
old.
I mean, times are changing,
He
so
was
little
not
by
a
little.
child. He was not a
Not a
child. He was a
child,
man.
huh?
He was a man.
Tell us a little bit about that.
He was a man. He already knew what he wanted. He already knew how to run a business. He was already trained since he was little. He knew how to work, and he knew that the household needed, he needed more people to chip in. He wasn't gonna be a little boy. He was a man. He already had a plan. He was at some point eyeballing my mother. So he
All that, doing it all at once.
yeah, all at once. All at once. He never, he's still sturdy. He's still strong. He still carried through, and another warrior that I applaud until this day. He's been an example to many of us.
Man, but look at that. Like you say, a 14-year-old in today's world, especially here in America, is considered a child till 21, and we don't realize how like necessity and need makes a man, So there are some traditions that some cultures have, rite of passage for different cultures. That's like a celebration. But for some cultures, it's you jump into that, you walk into that, and you fit that mold, and you sort of emulate whatever your father or whatever your mother has taught you. But you don't get no guide. You sort of make your own way, and that's sort of like we are now in a very weird situation where even though there's many examples of people that we can follow, we're still waiting. We're still waiting for an invitation to step into manhood. We're still waiting for somebody to say, hey, you're a man. Here's what a man is supposed to look like. Here's what I'm supposed to do. And we're expecting guide rules. We're expecting all these things. But because we're privileged too, like we're privileged in a way that we don't have to worry so much about leaving our house. Or we don't have that memory or that that structure, because we are told that we can come back to our house whenever we want. We are, especially like I lived in New York for most of my adult life, and I lived with my parents until I got married. But not everyone has the same fortune to be there, and some people just take advantage too of that, and they live and ride it along till forever, and never get, until something dramatic happens, we don't step into man. So it's very weird, the situation, but it's also fortunate that we're able to live with our families a little longer too. It's not a bad thing either.
That's right. That's right. There is some benefit to it, obviously, but it is a choice. It should be a choice always. And I still remember when I was 15 and going to college already. I knew that in 4 more years I was going to graduate, and I already had a plan. I already had made myself, a direct path to where I needed to be. I said, this is what I want to do in my life. This is what I want to be working on. This is where I want to be living at. So I already had a plan in place. And as I was completing my schoolwork, I also were open up to other possibilities. So I started taking more courses, more different careers. Like I started studying other things as well, because I said, I'm still young. At the time I was 17 going to 18, and I was almost done with college. I'm like, like, what am I gonna do? Say nobody doesn't want to hire a 17-year-old kid, to work at a firm or something. Even though I was studying computer science and all this other stuff, I also wanted to do other things. That's why I went on for theater. I studied theater for 3 years. I studied advanced mathematics. I wanted to study humanities so I can be more, understand more society and maybe even politics. I started taking politics, but I got a huge headache one day, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna drop this class. I did. I got a really huge headache from the very first class that I went into. The first day, that I went
Man,
into class. The
you saw the
guy like he
sign.
went off. It's like, oh my God, I'm gonna blow my brains out. I said, let me just walk away, and I did. I
Man.
dropped that class. I said, nah. But I took advantage that, like you said, I was still young, and I felt that there was so much more that I can do and learn, and there's so much more that I could also give back to my family who has done so much for me. So what I started doing was, instead of just shipping off to start my own thing and leaving them behind, I said, what if I rent my own room from my family? So I actually went up and proposed the idea. I said, hey, by the way, I would love to rent the room that I'm living in. And they're like scratching their heads, going like, what are you talking about? But in reality, what I wanted to say was, I want to chip in to,
Gotcha.
all that you have given us.
And how old were you
Every
then?
I was already 18 at the time.
Gotcha.
18. And I had already started working since I was 16, 17. I didn't wait. I started working in school. I started working in small companies. I was already at a supermarket doing some extra stuff. So whatever I earned, I was giving it directly to my parents because they needed it more than I did. Literally, we were living off of them. They provided us for all the way up to that time. Why am I going to start hogging these things for me now? Oh, this is my money, my money. No, it's our money, always. So we, and I say we because it was the same mentality for all for my brothers and my two sisters. It was, let's all chip in as much as we can. And with that opportunity, my parents were able to be at ease with rent. They were able to save enough money, and they were able to invest the money that they have very wisely on properties and other things in Dominican Republic. They were able to buy a home over there that they always wanted to have. They were able to rent an apartment that they had, and then they were able to buy other homes in Florida and so forth. So it benefited all of us because they were able to do all these things, which they say is not even theirs, it's also ours.
Right. At the end of the day, right, you will still
It's
get the
all
benefit from
ours.
your parents.
Exactly. So they're saying, this is what we were able to accomplish. Not having to, they're in Florida right now, being able to live in a home fully paid because they had that opportunity. The opportunity not to struggle so much, and we can never forget that necessity of our parents. We can never forget when our time comes to go out there. Don't forget them. That's why I stayed a little bit longer in my home with them until I felt that I was ready to go, that they didn't need us anymore. So I was one of I think it was the third or the fourth one to leave, but eventually, three, 1, 2, 3. I was the third one, and then my sister left. But we did leave in order. First my brother, then my older sister, then me, and then my little sister.
Gotcha.
We all left around the same time.
Wow. Well, I don't want to hold you for a long time. I really appreciate your input and your story.
Always a pleasure, brother.
Man, I do want to remind everyone that joined to, I want to appreciate your time for coming in and listening to the stories. If you want to start it from the beginning, Emilio shared a bit of story. Emilio here is one of my mentors, guides from growing up, pretty much taught me a lot of things that now I know, and taught a lot of values to me, my brother, and a lot of us that were part of a youth group, theater group, dance group in our church where I grew up in Washington Heights, and he shared a lot of a story about the Warriors and his family. Sort of that memory that we sometimes take for granted. That we do have those warrior spirits in our family. We just don't know their stories sometimes because we don't ask them or we don't inquire about them. So again, I do appreciate your time, Emilio. I appreciate your story. It will forever stay up in my heart, and now it's recorded on YouTube and on Instagram for a bit. Um, and I would love to continue talking to you more often. You know, I do these lives every night, 10:30 to 11:30. So whenever you want to come by and chat it up, you're welcome to. So I appreciate it very much, Emilio. Thank you.
All right, brother.
All right, take care.
Peace out.
Peace. Now, for everyone else tuning in, I'll be finishing the live in 1 more minute. I'm going to make that 2-hour mark. Again, I appreciate anyone just coming in and joined. We are working, on an animation here. Memo, gracias por pasar la visita aquí. Thank you for passing by. And I just want to share real quick the animation. I'm just going to play it real quick to see where we are. And now this is 2 hours of animation. A lot of talking too. But this is pretty much the motion skipped and, you know, a little rough. But it is what we have so far. All right. So Talking Warriors, I wanted to emphasize the story of the Caribbean story, the machete fighters, the machete welders, the wielders, the carriers, you know, how these people use their machete for, you know, for not only for the land, but also to defend themselves. And like Emilio stated about his grandfather, he had to use the machete and cut somebody's arm off because they were stealing and making trouble in the neighborhood. No, I'm just kidding. Making trouble in the land. But the first thing that he did when he cut the arm off was put it in a bag and take him to the emergency room. You know, because this wasn't ill intent. This was just misfortune, you know. Somebody has less, they want what you got, and you defend yourself. So here's a bit of the Warriors. And these are the stories that I want to tell. You know, these are the stories that I want to keep telling. Thank you, Hasselfi, for joining in and enjoying, you know, staying tuned. And you're welcome to jump in tomorrow or any other day. Be here from 10:30 to 11:30. Or we can push it forward. Like tonight, we did 2 hours. It's pretty fun. But I want to remind us that we have these warriors. That, like Emilio said, once the TV got introduced, the stories that were told were no longer our own. There were narratives that were given to us and presented to us. Also very informative. Nothing wrong with that. But we got to remember that we also have stories in our families that we got to honor. And we got to honor our forefathers. We got to honor the warriors who made it possible for us to be alive. The warriors that made it possible to be here. You know, so sit down and talk to them, write down their stories, and whenever you find a time, either write it yourself or have someone write it for you. And yeah, it's been a pleasure to be live tonight. I did not expect it to go down this well. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for everyone who tuned in. Again, this is Jordan talking with the Artclstudios from 10:30 to 11:30, Monday through Friday. Every night, different topic, different arts. So expect more and keep it tuned. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Artclstudios, or just go to my link and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, don't forget to give it a like. Turn on the notification bell so you get notified when I go live, when a new video is uploaded. So again, thank you so much for everyone joining. Emilio, guest of honor today, my mentor. Appreciate your time. Tammy Trouble, thank you for joining. We'll be signing out now, but the live will stay up so you can watch it at any time. 24 hours and on YouTube forever. Again, thank you for joining. Peace out on the live. Well, let's close it out first on YouTube. Thank you for joining. And as I always say, never stop learning for you, because when you learn, you can teach others. Peace out. From here Don't forget to subscribe. Follow me on social media. And if you like the video, click the like button. If you want to see more videos, click the video in the middle. And don't forget, never stop learning for you.